We now come to 5 most amazing discovered checks. What I like to call the ambush move, or Jennifer Shahade has called the peekaboo. Peekaboo. And remember to like and subscribe to this channel and video. And we're going to have a look at some amazing chess examples. Now, on to example number 1. This very famous example was actually played in 1910, and it's probably the most famous example of the discovered check being used in a tactical sequence. Richard RETI had the white pieces, and his opponent was TARTAKOWER, 2 elite players in that history markers point. So it's white to play, and how did white now unleash a devastating and checkmating attack through a combination of a very strong and bizarre looking first move? Remember, you can pause these videos if you need to. Well, queen to d8 check, and this is a shocking first move because you give the queen up for nothing. But now the theme of this YouTube video, this ambush that we have, so wherever we move the bishop, it's going to be check, and after bishop to g5 we produce a double check. And this is the discovered check tactic. The rook is released. Wherever the king goes, it's going to be checkmate. The game apparently finished king c7, bishop d8, beautiful checkmate. And had the king gone to e8, the rook now lands on that square, also delivering checkmate. So we're going to move on to another example now. We're going to stick with some famous and well-known examples of this for now. And we have TORRE with the white pieces against LASKER. It must have been all the rage, this discovered checking around this period in history. And I suppose we could say this next example is the most famous example of a sort of technique of the discovered check called the windmill. It's white to play and win here, and I also like calling this the hoover. You just hoover up all your opponent's pieces. What is the winning move for white here? Well, it is bishop to f6, creating a threat against g7, and also the queens are now opposing each other and en prise. Black really has to take the white queen, otherwise he's completely lost. And now we see this windmill discovered check idea. Rook takes g7. The black king only has 1 square. The bishop has this potential discovered check. And you can see the sort of reason it's called a windmill here. Don't let me do too many movements. Rook to f7, check. And the king only has 1 square. The rook goes back to g7, check. Only has 1 square. And now the rook continues its windmill technique, taking everything it can do in its path pretty much, and only now going to g5. Again, another discovered check, but this time white grabs the queen and goes into a position with domination of material and an easily winning position at this level. So a very famous windmill there, and we've got one more good historic example to come after this. This is again a very famous one. The next 2 examples after this are a bit more modern, but I had to include it because I think the final little move has a bit of sense of humour. Now I'm going to whiz through the little tactical sequence which you may have seen, white to play and win. Do pause if you need to, but it starts off with a stunning queen sacrifice. This has to be taken, and now we have the first discovered check, ambush or peekaboo. Knight takes f6. The bishop also dominates the king here. The king can't go back because a knight g6 checkmate, so it has to come forwards. And now white keeps on chasing the black king down the board. Look at that black king, embarrassingly wandering to death. And it now touchdown on g1, and there are a couple of ways to win here, but I really like the next move. King d2 checkmate. How many times in chess can you move a king and give checkmate? You can never move a king into check, so you have to move it away with a discovered checkmate. And that is an astonishing example of that. I might have even preferred castling queenside with checkmate, but hey ho, it's in the eye of the beholder. Well, this is a very famous example because it occurred in 1995, this game, and it helped Garry Kasparov, who was playing black, become world champion. This is in his world championship match against Anand, Viswanathan Anand. And it is white to play, and Anand now went for the fork. You might have seen that in the previous video. Knight to b6. But Garry had set up a very nasty discovered check idea. He first takes on b4, and now Anand plays king a3, actually putting black into another fork. Both rooks are attacked. And this is the position where black needs to find a good move. Can you see it? Only one move, otherwise Garry is lost. Rook takes a2, the move that Anand must have missed. And the point of this move, both black rooks are on pre, but you can't take both of them at once. If king takes b4, black simply takes on d2 with a winning position. White's pawns are dropping. And maybe the slightly trickier line after rook takes c2 is white taking on c2. But now we use a discovered check. We first check on b3. White can only move to a2. And like the previous example, lining up into the bishop's, like, shall we say, range there. So black can do a discovered check. Rook e3 being a good one. Win the rook next move, have a 2-pawn advantage. So a nice little tactical sequence there. And in the next case, it's Anand's chance to shine. Well, this is probably one of my favourite ones of the whole 5 examples. And this occurred with Anand with the white pieces in 1997 against the very strong French player, LAUTIER. And Anand now played h6, a rather unassuming move. But after LAUTIER took on h6, Anand had a devastatingly beautiful idea here. And this really requires some talent and imagination. What is the winning move that Anand now played? Again, pause if you need to. Bishop to g6. And this is an example of a discovered attack against the opposing king, but gaining tempo to also start an attack against, well, the king. So the king and queen are both attacked here. And black is now in a lot of trouble, losing in actual fact. If black decides to take the queen on d1, we can now play rook takes e6 check. And we can see why h6 was so important. This is pinned, so the king really has to move. And now bishop comes to that square that Harry the H-pawn created. And bishop takes f7 is a beautiful checkmate. So a lovely move, bishop g6. And the game actually ended now after bishop takes g6 with knight to e7. But white simplified things with queen takes queen, and now rook to d3. And the point of these simplifications is that after bishop d3, the black bishop is trapped. King is going to get that piece, and Anand's a piece up. Lovely final example. I love that bishop g6 move. Please do like and subscribe to this video. Let me know your favourite discovered check from those 5. I'd also be interested to hear if you've managed to pull off a nice discovered check in your life. They're quite rare, but they're also very satisfying when they occur.